Back in 2016, Nintendo would change the games industry forever with the release of the Nintendo Switch, a combination of the beloved handheld gaming experiences of old with a traditional sit-at-your-couch console. The Switch was a paradigm shift for gaming, and it really drove home the idea that many people want to be able to play games wherever and whenever they want, and it is that convenience that would become a pivotal reason for why the Switch blew up and did so well. In comes the PC market, a scene filled with both people that have a passion for tech and those who just want to play their games. That market would see a veritable flood of handheld PCs meant to provide a similar feel to the Switch. From the Asus ROG Ally, the Lenovo Legion Go, the MSI Claw, and let's not forget the Steam Deck. These systems came onto the scene, and now with seemingly both Xbox and PlayStation trying to play catch-up in their own ways, what is it about this style of gaming that has thoroughly captured the hearts and minds of so many? Hello everybody, I am Jmulls, and it's time to game.
Not bad, Joshua.
Well, the ROG Xbox Ally X, what a name, is actually sold out on the Xbox Store worldwide. And while other storefronts still have the thing, I think this goes to show a couple of things. There is still room for this handheld PC market to grow, and also, the ROG Xbox Ally X is $1,000, holy! I think there's a lot of people out there that did kind of write off the ROG Xbox Ally X. Again, what a name. Not only when it was first announced, but during the entire marketing campaign for this thing, because it's like, dude, why wouldn't you just get like one of these other handheld PCs, let alone just a Steam Deck that you can get for far cheaper? Why just get an Asus ROG Ally that's just branded with Xbox slapped on it? Well, some people clearly want the thing. That, or they just had barely any stock to begin with, so selling out wasn't that big of an accomplishment. It's wait to find out when it comes to that. However, using at least a generous interpretation of the Ally X selling out in the Xbox Store worldwide, I think it goes to show that there is still a market right now for handheld PCs and a consumer base that is hungry for more of these things, and one that is possibly even growing. But why? I think it really does come down to a couple of key elements that gave the Switch so much success all those years ago and continued success with the Switch 2 and the original Switch, but also things like the Steam Deck. That is the form factor and the convenience of having a handheld gaming PC. If you are someone who has a lot of games on PC, or you're someone that wants to get into PC gaming, which do you think is easy to convince someone of? Buying a PC that will likely cost you like over $1,000? You can get a more budget-friendly one, absolutely. I'm just saying, at least the perception is, if you want a traditional desktop that is somewhat powerful, that's going to go you over $1,000. You can get them for cheaper, it's just that's the common perception. Or get one of these handheld PCs that not only can you game on the thing, but it can also double up as a traditional PC. We'll get more into that later on, but also, these things are very much accessible when it comes to the actual hardware itself. The form factor can be very comfortable to hold, because they realized, well, people already like holding game controllers. What if we just made them very wide, or we slapped a screen in the middle? And yeah, that does kind of work for the most part. It's also just a very convenient piece of tech. If I have to step away from my PC, or I just want to step away from my PC for whatever reason, or I need to go out and about, like I need to go to the doctor's office, or I need to go on a bus or a train, a plane, oh my, or I need to go to a hotel room for whatever reason, instead of lugging around a giant clunky laptop, especially if you want one geared for gaming, that can be really off-putting for a lot of people. Instead, you can just grab this tablet-like device and go on about your day, and when you need to just take a step back and game for a little bit, you can do that. Just pull a thing out, turn it on, good to go. Everyone's going to have a different definition of what is convenient, or what is a form factor that is enjoyable to hold or utilize, sure, but for a lot of people, this tablet-like device for handheld gaming PCs and consoles is very nice. You can play it while sitting on a chair, a bench, when you're laying down in bed in a variety of positions. Which, if you really wanted to, like, yes, I guess you could do it with a laptop as well. It's just far easier and more natural, in my opinion, to do it with one of these handheld PCs. If I ever get sick, or I just need to lay down in bed for a little bit, I can just pop out my Steam Deck and play a few games if I want to. People like being able to play their games wherever and whenever they want. It has always been an aspect to gaming as a culture. And it's one of the reasons things like the Game Boy, things like the DS or the Vita, well, maybe not so much the Vita, but you know what I mean. Things like those did so well because they were very convenient and also portable, and you could play them wherever and whenever you wanted. That is a very powerful thing, especially when it comes to a hobby that a lot of people use for escapism or just to relax or just to have fun with. And people can value those elements far more than just sheer graphical fidelity or even necessarily high frame rates. And let's get more into that right now.
Not bad, Joshua.
One of the longest running trends. The golden rule as to how to advertise a new piece of hardware in gaming is to show off just how powerful it is, how pretty and gorgeous games can look on that new hardware. And while that still absolutely holds true for things like handheld gaming PCs, the slice of the pie that it operates is a bit smaller in my opinion than what it used to be for things like older regular consoles. You still advertise how powerful the thing is, right? Absolutely. But you also advertise how gorgeous the screen itself is, how convenient of a device that it can be. For instance, in the lead up to the Asus ROG Xbox Ally X, whatever the hell they call it, what are a couple of the things they talked about the most? Well, how they pretty much made a streamlined version of Windows for handheld gaming PCs, and also that you can play a bunch of games from other storefronts on the Xbox app on this device. Yeah, they definitely talked about how powerful it is, but I feel like those elements are actually the main things they use to advertise not only the ROG Xbox Ally X, but also Windows 11 based gaming handhelds. And I think it makes a lot of sense as to why they would do something like that, because the main draw for a lot of people for these handheld gaming PCs is just how convenient they are to use and to actually have in your repertoire. And especially for the PC market, let's be fair here, most people have their games on Steam, not the Xbox app. So if you're trying to pitch this thing to a bunch of people that have all their games, or at least the vast majority of them, on Steam, and saying, hey guys, you can play PC games on this so long as they're not on Steam, that would just be dead on arrival pretty much. But it's not. For a lot of people, when they're going into something like a handheld PC, they don't care about whether or not the games are going to look as if they're playing on a 5090. They want to make sure the games at least look good enough, run well enough, and for a lot of people, that's enough. They just want to be able to play their favorite games or whatever game they want to play on the go. So for me, as someone who has a Steam Deck, I'm not going to get the Xbox Ally X thing. I'm not going to do that because what I get out of the Steam Deck more than satisfies me when it comes to this market. But at the same time, I don't think I'm the only one here where it's like, I do kind of hope it does well, as I do hope that a lot of these other gaming handhelds also do well, because I want to see the market share for handheld gaming PCs continue to increase and to become more relevant to where it can become something that large AAA developers and just gaming developers overall and publishers can't really ignore and have to optimize their games to at least be able to run well enough on handheld PCs. Ideally, hopefully, and maybe this is just cope on my part, maybe one day gaming optimization for PC games can be far more important than some of what we get nowadays. Looking at you, games like Monster Hunter Wilds. Looking at you, games like Borderlands 4. If developers and large publishers feel the need to optimize their games to make sure that a lot of people that play on these handheld PCs can still play their games on them, hopefully that just starts to cull this weird arms race we're going into, where it's like games are developed with the idea that you have fully maxed out DLSS and frame gen on at all times, and then when you have those things on, it's playable. It's like, come on. One of the things that I hope PC gaming becomes more is more affordable and accessible. And games that kind of operate in the sphere where you need to have frame gen and you need to have DLSS or FSR and stuff like that maxed out to even run halfway decently, I think that only restricts the medium even more. I want gaming optimization to be a forefront selling point. And while I don't necessarily think just if more people buy handheld gaming PCs, that would change about the medium overnight or anything, I do think it could help nudge the industry in that direction, which I think is more healthy and a better state of things than what we currently have. Because if I play a game like Stellar Blade on my desktop PC that has a 4080 Super, I'm expecting very high performance with very high graphical fidelity. But if I'm playing it on my Steam Deck, I'm not expecting it to be 1440p, 100 plus FPS or anything like that. In the context of a handheld gaming PC, 45 is good. And with a little bit of tinkering, I can get a stable frame rate, or at least a somewhat stable frame rate, while also the game still looking really good. And the idea that I can play a game that is of high quality as a game like Stellar Blade on a handheld PC, like that's mind-blowing as someone who grew up with the Game Boy and with the DS. Or heck, even an original PSP, which at least in terms of form factor might be a more apt comparison here. But it's not like every game out there is the most graphically intensive thing of all time. The fact that people can play big games that they care about like Silksong on the go is a very powerful motivating element for people to want to get something like an Asus ROG Ally, or things like a Steam Deck, or Legion Lenovo Go. Actually, Lenovo Legion Go. Dude, these names are wild to me. That convenience in this sector of PC gaming is very, very important in my opinion. But I also don't think it's the only important element of handheld PC gaming that draws the hearts and minds of so many people. It's also the flexibility and the value of it.
Not bad, Joshua.
And look, I know what you're saying, Jmulls, the ROG Xbox Ally X is $1,000. What are you yapping about when you're talking about value here? Like, I get that. Not every device is that expensive, though. Quite a few of them are, actually, but not every single one of them. It's like, you can get some Steam Decks for rather cheap compared to that. And the value proposition there and the flexibility of that kit is nothing to scoff at. Because I think what a lot of people talk about when it comes to value is just how pricey it is. For a lot of people, I think, subconsciously, it's also about what can I do with this thing? Because for something like the Steam Deck, which I'm going to center this like following conversation around, because that is where I have the most experience and the most knowledgeable, at least in comparison to these other devices, because I have a Steam Deck. It doubles as a regular PC. And I know you can go to desktop mode when it comes to things like a Windows 11 handheld gaming PC, but the Steam Deck runs on Linux. So I get an entire Linux desktop experience alongside just being able to play my PC Steam games or whatnot. So if I want to browse the internet, if I want to download files, if I want to download apps, I can do that on my Steam Deck. It's not just limited to gaming. It's more than just a traditional console in that regard. That can be a very powerful thing. There are people out there that use things like the Steam Deck as their primary PC because it can act like that. And I imagine for a lot of other people, even if you're not going to use it primarily for that purpose, the simple fact that it's available to you like that can be enticing all of its own. Being able to go, dude, I'm going to spend the lion's share of my time just playing my regular games in this thing, but the fact that I know I can go mod those games if I want to, I can go download whatever app that runs on Linux, if you're on a Steam Deck at least, that I want, I can go peruse the internet on an internet browser on my Steam Deck if I want to, that is a powerful thing. People, a lot of the times, like knowing they're going to be able to do something, or that they at least have the option to do something, even if they're not going to actively do that thing all the time or even ever. And like, let's also be fair here. It's not like these things, at least to my knowledge, are selling tens of millions of units. It is a relatively small section of the market that I think is starting to grow and find a lot of traction, especially as technology becomes more and more powerful. So I can only imagine how much more prevalent and powerful devices like this will become as better tech gets out the door with each coming year. How good will something like the Steam Deck 2 be when we eventually get around to something like that? What about the rise in possible prevalence of something like SteamOS? What if Steam and Valve do go in a direction where they just want to make that an entire new viable OS? Yeah, it's based on Arch Linux, but what if eventually, because of the success of the Steam Deck, it eventually translates to, we get a new, like, desktop OS with SteamOS? Or at least some version of that at some point down the line in the future. Is it likely to overtake Windows overall in market share? Probably not, but could it be viable competition? Hopefully so, and I think we're already starting to see the result of that competition in the handheld space, at least, with the improvements to Windows 11 that Microsoft had to do for the Asus ROG Ally thing, and also for other Windows 11 handheld devices. Would we have ever gotten changes like that if it wasn't for the Steam Deck and for Valve being viable competition in this scene? Maybe, but also maybe not. Like, it can be so easy to get very negative about gaming overall, especially with the modern state of the industry and all that. But I do think when it comes to handheld PCs, this is like one of the elements of it I'm kind of positive and optimistic about. Which just kind of seems like the future's just getting brighter brighter for it. And I think a lot of people feel the same way as well. Devices like this aren't going to be for everyone, but for a lot of people, they're exactly what they wanted out of gaming that they just didn't realize for the longest time.
Not bad, Joshua.
I don't think we're going to see handheld PCs sell like tens of millions of units individually anytime soon, but I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see the importance and relevance continue to increase year after year. There's clearly a growing market that is hungry for devices like this. I mean, after all, the Switch 2 is also selling like hotcakes right now, and the Switch 1 sold so many units. People love being able to just pick up their games on the go and play them. That is a feeling I don't think is ever going to go away. It's evergreen. So here's where you come in. Freaking Smudge, leave a comment down below with, do you have a handheld PC or do you have a Switch and a Switch 2? How do you like it? And what do you hope to see out of devices like this going into the future? I would love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and hear your perspectives. And speaking of Nintendo, they get into a lot of controversy, don't they? Whether it's high prices, going after other games like Palworld, going after modding, but it seems that no matter the controversy Nintendo gets wrapped up in, they always come out the other end of it, selling more units, more games, and more Switches. So how does Nintendo get away with it? Well, to find out the answer, you should check out this video right here for more. Stay safe, everybody, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again!